I mean, how many people have to die in car accidents before we wake up? How many drunk driver-related accidents have to happen? How many children have to be victims of domestic violence? How many marriages have to end? How many people have to go bankrupt because of alcoholism? How many jobs have to be lost before we realize that the root of the problem is alcohol itself? Now, how does Islam solve the problem? All right, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Another day of Tundra Talk. Talking about how the West is failing and it needs help, and the only solution that actually exists is Islam. That's been the claim that I've been making, and I'm backing it with evidence to show that Islam can solve all of the West's problems. We talked a little bit about the financial problems and how Islam, one way that contributes to solving that is taking advantage of natural resources. Now, that's not the only way, but that's the one that we've spoken about so far. We also said that the actual problem that the West is having is enabled by what we call freedom. And we use that as justification for every problem that the West has, pretty much. Whether it's freedom, democracy, capitalism, so on. So I'm going to pose a series of problems and see if we can find something in common. Talk about automobile deaths, domestic violence, rape, physical assault. What do all those have in common? For one thing, they're really bad, but a big percentage of them is caused by being under the influence of alcohol, especially here in the States. Question is, how is that dealt with? Well, in the States, they've got laws against harassment, against sexual assault. They've got laws against drinking and driving. Being caught with a DUI, you could go to prison for a while. And if you cause an accident that kills people, you could get into a lot of trouble. Sure, okay. Does that solve the problem? No, obviously not. If you look at statistics, in 2021, on average, 37 people died every day from driving under the influence. Over 140,000 deaths due to alcohol-related issues. 40 to 60% of domestic violence is alcohol-related. So you've seen a pattern? What the West does is it makes laws to punish people who break the law and who commit these crimes, these horrible acts, and that's pretty much it. There's no real solution. Does that solve the problem? Absolutely not. Not even close. In fact, year after year, the numbers just get bigger and bigger. It's just worse and worse. So what's the problem? The problem is that the West is doing what it always does. It just treats the symptoms. And it doesn't get rid of the actual disease, the actual virus. And the actual virus, in this case, is alcoholism. Is alcohol in itself and the consumption of alcohol. So how do we fix it? Well, you ban alcohol. That's how Islam fixes the problem. Now, why is it that the West allows people to keep drinking alcohol? According to the statistics, alcohol-related accidents and domestic abuse are all avoidable. So taking away alcohol would effectively get rid of that problem. But there's always that excuse, right? It's their right. It's their freedom to drink if they want to drink. They're adults. They can choose. The problem is that it's not affecting them by themselves, is it? It's affecting all of society. If your go-to argument is it's their right, let them drink, and you're really thinking to yourself, I get to drink, or if you're just that naive and you're saying, let them drink, when a drunk driver, God forbid, hits your kid in the street and your kid's in the hospital, what are you going to say then? God forbid. But if that were to happen to your kid, what would your stance be then? I'm so happy that he had the right to drink. And then there's that good old slogan, drink responsibly. Drink responsibly? Really? Take away the one thing, which is their ability to think, and pass proper judgment. And then tell them to still pass judgment and drink responsibly. Really? That makes perfect sense. No, it doesn't. If your go-to response is always, it's their freedom, it's their choice, every problem that's presented to you and is shown to you to be an actual problem for society, your response is it's their freedom, it's their choice, then maybe your go-to argument that enables them is in fact the problem. Maybe the idea of it's their freedom is actually itself the problem. Think about that. I mean, how many people have to die in car accidents before we wake up? How many drunk driver-related accidents have to happen? How many children have to be victims of domestic violence? How many marriages have to end? How many people have to go bankrupt because of alcoholism? How many jobs have to be lost before we realize that the root of the problem is alcohol itself and that alcohol should be banned? Now, how does Islam solve the problem? It goes to the root. It doesn't solve the symptoms, it solves the disease. It gets rid of alcohol. You don't see Muslims dealing with domestic violence issues like that. I'm not saying there's no domestic violence in the Muslim world. There's 2 billion Muslims in the world. But if you look at how many Muslim families are victims of domestic violence related to alcohol, it's close to zero. If you look at how many Muslims cause drunk-related accidents, zero. And here's the thing. Islam told us why. We don't drink for religious reasons. It is haram. It is a sin in our religion to drink, to consume alcohol, or anything that makes you absent-minded, that takes away your ability to pass proper judgment, your ability to think. You know, if a child plays with matches, you take the matches away from the child because they shouldn't be playing with matches. Because if they do play with matches, it'll burn them or burn something else. But here's the thing. If you don't take away the matches from the child and they do burn themselves, the child will actually learn. And then next time, they won't play with matches. But that's not the case when it comes to alcohol. Alcohol is an addictive substance. People go to jail for years for driving under the influence or for committing atrocious crimes like rape and murder when they're drunk. And then when they leave prison, they go back to drinking. The issue isn't you're an adult, it's your choice. The issue is, what's the effect on society? Why is it always the individual that counts and not society? For a society to function properly, I need to rely on my neighbor to be awake and aware if I need him. I need to have an employee that I can count on to come back into work. I need to know that when I go out with my friends and we have fun, they're not going to get all absent-minded and we're not going to get into a car accident on our way home because they can't see straight. Islam doesn't allow for that problem. It fixes it. It gets rid of it. No excuses. This is why I'm saying the justification for these 140,000 deaths in 1 year because of alcohol, the justification for that is freedom. So you're using freedom to justify murder. Think about that for a while. Anyway, this is Tundra Talk.